When disaster strikes, homeowners often struggle with the decision of should you get disaster assistance or should you get a disaster loan. They have trouble making that decision because of a lot of misinformation. So today, let's break this down. What might be the best solution for you? Disaster assistance or disaster loans? So let's get started. Hi, I'm Chris, the flood insurance guru. More than 12 years ago, I bought a house in a flood zone just like this right here. I was given the wrong flood insurance premium. I was given the wrong flood zone. It was going to skyrocket my cost. And that's why in today's video, I'm making here for you today on disaster assistance and disaster loans so that you can understand the true cost here. So let's briefly talk about the differences here. Remember, disaster assistance typically is a grant. Disaster assistance typically does not have to be repaid. You could potentially get up to $42,000 in coverage for disaster assistance, but usually that's not the case. It's usually much lower. And disaster assistance may be limited if you had insurance, or maybe insurance covered the large portion of your expenses there. It doesn't mean you don't have the availability of disaster assistance, it just might be limited. Like the $750 that a lot of people complain about when you first get it. Remember, that is a starting point for emergency services here. Now on to disaster loans here. Remember, disaster loans are just like they sound. They're an SBA disaster loan through the Small Business Administration. That means these have to be repaid. The average interest rate we see on these is usually between 5 to 8% in 2024. Remember, you still have to go through a credit approval process here with SBA disaster loans. Typically, the SBA disaster loans could be up to $250,000 over a 30-year period. And remember, they're there to cover the gap when insurance is not enough. Maybe you didn't have any insurance at all. Maybe disaster loan is your only option here, that you could get up to that $250,000. Now, let's talk about some of the insurance requirements on disaster assistance and disaster loans. Look, no matter which one of these you take, if you have suffered a flood disaster, typically flood insurance is going to be required. Whether your bank requires it or not, whether you're in a required flood zone or not, flood insurance is going to be required if you decide to use either one of these. So you want to understand that before you decide to take them out. What are going to be my long-term costs? For example, am I just getting $5,000 one time, but insurance costs could end up costing me $20,000 over a 5-10-year period? That's something you want to understand there. And you want to reach out to an insurance agent to have them quote the flood insurance for you. Have them explain, hey, what do you see happening here long-term? How could rates change? What am I looking at potentially over the next 3 to 5 years? You need to understand all these things before making this decision when taking out disaster assistance and disaster loans. So these are some of the differences between disaster assistance and disaster loans. Remember, disaster assistance typically is for temporary housing costs. They're for smaller things, while disaster loans are going to be for bigger things like major structural damage. So this is the video on understanding disaster assistance and disaster loans as a homeowner. Remember, make sure to click on the corner here to check out our videos on disaster assistance. Also, make sure to share, subscribe to the channel below. I'm Chris, the flood insurance guru, and I look forward to speaking to you in our next video. Remember, everybody's in a flood zone. Thank you.